Welcome to the Defence Property Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things property investing and real estate for Australian Defence Force personnel. Whether you're looking to build and scale a property portfolio or relocating across Australia, we've got the insights and tips for less stress and more success. Let's dive in.
The information in this episode is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Nothing discussed should be considered financial, legal, or taxation advice. Before making any decisions, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for your circumstances and seek independent, professional advice from a licensed financial advisor.
And welcome back to another episode of the Defence Property Podcast. Today we've got a special guest who's a client of Discover Buyers Agency, and he started his journey on building an investment portfolio. So he's also a current member of the Defence Force. So welcome to the podcast, Rob Campbell.
Thanks, Kane. Thanks for having me.
So I guess to kick us off, Rob, give us a soldier's five on just, high level who Rob is and what you're doing at the moment and where you are in unit and history, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, cool. So I joined the Army in 2009 as a vehicle mechanic. Grew up in Western Sydney. Came from pretty humble beginnings, working class family. But so joined the Army in 2009, vehicle mechanic. Bumbled my way along as a crafty, and then I started studying an engineering degree, 2015, and that's roughly when I met my wife, Tanya.
Yep.
And then, as the years went by, I made it to corporal, and then I ended up transferring to officer, and now I'm a mechanical engineer at 20 Reg.
Dizzy Heights corporal in Ramey.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Very good. Cool. So take us through, I guess, going back before defence, what was the topic of property and money like in the household? I know you mentioned sort of humble beginnings, but what was that like? Was there encouragement from the parents, or were they property investors themselves, or?
My dad had some property investment, but not really, and it was never really spoken about.
Yeah.
And split family, had mainly at home with mum and stepdad, and then went and saw dad and stepmum every other second weekend, but not really much. My mum, so my main home, I guess, my mum's, they just did the stock standard Aussie dream, bought a house, when they were
paid off over 30 years
pretty
and
much,
not really do anything else.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And in fact, my mum actually just paid it off the last couple of years, and she's 70-something now. So she pretty much emptied her super to pay out the remainder of the mortgage.
Yeah.
And now she's I love your mum if she does listen, but she's still working a pretty intense job with New South Wales Health. She's in an admin role there, an office manager.
Yeah.
But she's pretty much chained to that job now because emptied their super to pay off the house. And now she's I don't want to pull up stumps at work. But anyway, so money wasn't really talked about that much.
Which is very normal and very common.
Pretty much, yeah. Stock, same as what a lot of diggers come through the Army.
Yep.
Yeah, same sort of experience, I guess.
Going back, do you know what your mum paid for the house and what year that was?
Oh, I think I've heard it was it would have been 1995, thereabouts, in the Blue Mountains, and it would have maybe been 300-something thousand, I think, from memory.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
95.
Yeah.
And do you know what it'd be worth now?
Oh, it'd be over $1 million. Not that much over $1 million, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is that 20, 30 years and at least a 3x, 300 to $1 million. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if she, and it's not always times change, right? So it certainly wasn't normal back then to go buy investments, but if she had brought the home and then over the preceding 5-10 years brought 2 more even.
Yeah.
Imagine the difference to her position now.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have emptied the super to pay it off. She could have sold one of the investments, cleared down the investment and the home, pocketed some lifestyle change or money, and then retained one investment.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, the times were so different back then.
Yeah.
And hindsight's a wonderful thing, but
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I can, coming through, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go on, coming through, I can see, that is still somewhat appealing, buying a house, living in it, making it your home, and that's, a lot less stress and stuff like that. But I think the less stress you have throughout your life is then might catch up to you a bit in retirement when you haven't probably built the wealth that you want or need to live the retirement that you want to have.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part while you're a current serving member is where's home?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like I grew up in South Australia. I met my wife in Townsville and we're on the Gold Coast, which is very common and normal. And not everyone grows up where they love either. They just grow up because that's where they were, you know, born or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, and then as the defence takes you on this journey through Australia, you actually see so much more of the country that you say, well, fuck, Perth looks pretty good. That might be home after, you know, and all their career takes them there. Cool. And so at what point, you know, age and stuff, did you start thinking about the defence?
Well, I was a pretty loose young lad growing up.
Love
and
it.
I think
They all end up in Ramey.
Yeah, I was going nowhere pretty fast, potentially going to get on the wrong side of the law without going into too much detail. And I finished school. I did go to year 12. Yeah, finished school. And then I bounced around a few jobs I tried. Didn't really like them. I was selling Foxtel door to door. I was a piano removalist. I started an apprenticeship doing panel beating. Really hated that. I worked at a bar. Didn't like that. And then I got a job like at a factory, just in a warehouse, sort of loading trucks, like pick packer type work, like driving forklifts and that. And whilst the job still wasn't much, it was dead end. There was it was a small business, and it was a small group of people there who'd been working there for a long time. And they told me as a young guy, like, oh, hey, this is a good job just to sort of, mark time until you find what you want to do. And then my younger brother had joined the army as infantry. Yeah. And I saw that. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll join the army if all else fails. I'll get a trade in the army. And then as time was ticking by, I had a lot of mates who left school who were already at uni, and then some had got a trade and they were already starting to, you know, earn good money and whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I'll join the army. And then I never really intended on it being a long-term career. And it's funny, it hasn't, like I'm at 18 years in now, and it's only now that I'm finally seeing it as a long-term career. Not that I was ever against it. I was always just, I think because of the location security thing, I was always a bit hesitant or like concerned that, they might post me somewhere not ideal and that's going to be me. I don't want to move the family around or go unaccompanied, all that sort of thing. But yeah, and then I've never looked back since. And now I think it's good that we've started getting the properties, and now I'm looking into the future a lot more than I ever did. Yeah. And like having that stable career, like job security is super high. And I mean, job security is high and the pay's reasonable too, but I enjoy it, which is the main thing.
It gets better and better. And one thing I take away from my career that in hindsight, I would pay a lot more attention to my super. Yeah. And I was MSBS as well. And I know, you know, when I served, MSBS was the bad one compared to DFRDB.
Yeah.
But now there's ADF Super, which is the bad one compared to MSBS. And I get that. It's probably deteriorated as each new scheme's come out, but still paying attention to your super, because the defence, like the contributions that you get, plus the enforced 5% that you contribute yourself, it's you know, like if you pay attention to it earlier and acknowledge it as an asset, it contributes to your household balance sheet, I guess, you know.
Definitely.
You should be aware of it.
Yeah. Because, it's funny. This is all tying into now to where I'm going with the future, because, like, I was never really looking at this stuff maybe 5 or so years ago, and now buying the properties, locking in, and now looking like, all right, well, this is like the cash flow I need to make sure we have those, service those, and then continue to get more as we go along. And then I was looking at super the other day, and they've got the super calculator, which you can use, which is a bit confusing, but I used AI, put in all the data I have, like my expected time in each rank, how much money I'll be earning at those ranks, and then give me an idea, not taking into consideration inflation, how much my super will be. Yeah. And then I can either as a lump sum or my pension that I'll have. And I'm like, wow, that's like pretty substantial. Yeah. So if I can keep staying in, enjoying it, I'll push.
And you're in the golden years for the scheme now, post that 15 years, mark and 20, it really starts to accelerate, I think. Yeah. And how old are you now?
37.
37, right. So let's come back to that, I guess, when we get into. So you've joined defence. How old were you?
19.
19, yeah. And then gone to obviously Latchford, and I can imagine did Latchet and
Yeah.
2 years there roughly, living in Wodonga, going down Dean Street. Some stories and memories that town's got to share.
Yeah, I'm sure all the boys I know who are out of the army now, they'll watch this and they'll have a good laugh because, some good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to always get in the Murray River at at the dam wall and float into Norrill Park on tubes with a esky. Like, oh shit! I actually went back there, for promotion courses to sergeant when we lived in Sydney, and Nadia drove down to Wodonga and we did the Murray River float.
Oh, nice! Yeah.
So, cool. And then so you've obviously served. You said obviously crafty. Where were you posted?
I did some time up at Townsville at B34 Cav, and then I posted at Brisbane. I did 7 Sisby and then 7 CSR, and then 1 SIG, and then now at 20 Reg.
20 Reg, cool.
Yeah.
And you made your way to corporal, and then just started studying.
Yeah, so I started the engineering degree 2015 when I was second posting crafty.
Yeah, okay. Mechanical?
Yeah, mechanical engineering,
cool. Sweet. And then, so once you're going through that degree and you got qualified, was it an ASWOC?
No, because I was still a corporal. ASWOC's for the senior NCO and above. But I never intended on transferring either. And then as I was getting closer to the end of the degree, or at least I'd done, I think 5 years part-time, and I was a bit burnt out.
Yeah.
And then I sat back and actually looked at it, I zoomed out. I was like, I'm about to be an engineer qualified sergeant because I started on my sergeant courses.
Yeah.
And then I'm still going to be told what to do by no offense to the 20-year-old lieutenants, but the 20-year-old lieutenants, even though they've got an engineering degree, I'm like, I'm going to be a vehicle, like a trade qualified mechanical engineer. It just didn't really make much sense. And then factor in the actual funded long-term schooling that they offer, which is what I got, 2 years long-term schooling. It was a no-brainer. And since then, it's just been like I've keep getting confirmed that I've done the right thing the more I learn in the job. Yeah, for sure.
So as we sit in now, you're a Louis?
Yeah, I'm promoting at the end of the year.
End of the year to captain. Yeah, cool. At about the 18-year mark in defence.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Nice. And then I guess so you're married to Tanya, who I obviously know personally, client, and we've sort of got to know each other over the years. How long ago did you and Tanya, you mentioned?
Yeah, well, I met her the same year I started studying. She was probably the driving force at the time, so 2015. Because when we met, I was like, when she met me, she's like, so what's your plan? I was like, I like swinging spanners with the boys. That's like that was my exact words. And she's like, right. And then I was telling her about the study thing, and she's like, oh, you're doing that. And she signed me up for uni. So I got her to thank for getting me a bit of a kick up the arse to start that.
Yeah, nice. And then sort of obviously we'll get into the property. We purchased the first one. Was it the end of last year or start of this year?
It was the very start. We got delayed just because finance was
so we started talking November, December.
Yeah.
What triggered the property journey? Like, what was for me, I was 22. I remember reading the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and then I picked up a couple of property books, and there was just this light bulb moment that it just clicked for me, and I got obsessed with it and just started, consuming books, magazines. 2005 as well. So, the internet wasn't what it is today back then. Books and magazines still offered information, I guess, or a source for information.
Yeah.
And then I just went down. Like, did you have a trigger? Or
there was a trigger, but for me, I can't concentrate long enough to read something worthwhile. But we were ready to buy a place, and we intended on buying one to live in.
Yep.
And we went and looked at it was a townhouse at Albany Creek, which is north side of Brisbane. Quite a nice area. That's where. So my daughter's going to school out there, and our son Jackson he's got work and his footy's in the area too.
Yeah. It's quite a common army sort of suburb, isn't it, for Enoggera? People commute from there near the.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite close to army, but the base there. But so we went and looked at an open house. It was a townhouse similar to what we're currently living in with DHA. And it was really nice. It was probably, if anything, a bit smaller than what we were already in, which is already too small for us with, a wife, 2 kids and 2 dogs. And they were asking essentially 1.1 million for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, like we were like willing. I'm like, that's a lot of money for that house, and it's not even something I saw as like a. Yeah, I don't know. Just something wasn't sitting with me right.
Doesn't click as I love this as a home. It's just a means to an end.
Pretty much, yeah. And paying, over $1 million for something that's a means to an end. And then when Tanya and I got home that afternoon, and that's pretty much I'm very much make a decision, just roll with it. And then I think we should look at investments. And I also had a boss at the time who was very property savvy. I think he had about 7 properties at that time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't forcing it down my throat, but I was asking him for advice, and I saw what he was doing and talking about passive income streams and that, and I was like, that's what I want. And then that's when I started looking at different ways to do this.
Yeah, cool. So the seed's been planted and you started thinking about it now. Like, where did you go from there? Like, what was the first action? Of planning? Like, you've obviously identified probably the owner occupier path not right for me, and that's something that I have that conversation a lot with people that inquire with us around, because DOAS is very big in the defence, and it's very, I wouldn't say pushed on people, but people hear about it and think that's the pathway and the solution for them. But when you run all the numbers, obviously you can go down the rentvesting path, which essentially, if that term's new to anyone listening, you choose to rent where you live and, buy investment properties. And the concept comes from, I'll use like the eastern suburbs of Sydney as that example, where people want a very specific lifestyle, but they can't really afford to buy the home that they want, or they don't fit. Like, they might have 2-3 kids and they don't fit in the unit and stuff, but they don't want to give up the lifestyle that area offers. So they choose to rent there because they can afford to rent. And then they go and, instead of buying a home to live in, they buy an investment property of similar value where they get to choose the market. They receive a higher yield because the yields might be better wherever they choose. So that's a rentvesting concept where you rent your lifestyle, essentially invest in better markets. But then, like with defence people, where it becomes, I wouldn't say a no-brainer, but a very strong concept and strategy is the fact that the defence is going to pay half your rent for you. So for this episode and going forward, if we say rent assistance, we're encompassing living in accommodation, rent assistance, or DHA. Just use the term rent assistance to cover all three, but as subsidised living.
Yeah.
So rentvesting, so you've made the decision to go down that rentvesting path.
Yeah.
And where to from there?
Yeah, so because we had made the decision to get an investment, so I knew that DOAS wasn't going to be available to us. I didn't look too much into crunching numbers to compare.
Yep.
But so Tanya got us onto a webinar with a company that was, offering advice with defence benefits and stuff like that. So we watched the webinar, and we ended up watching it twice, and that was quite good. And it talked about, it gave us a rundown of the DOAS benefits just so I actually understood them then. And then it was like a bit of a crash course in investment properties. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's make an appointment with these people and, see where we're at from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Paid appointment or free or?
It was paid.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep. And how was that appointment? How did you find that?
It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was keeping an open mind. So we watched the webinar, and that was with the top dude of the company.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff he was saying resonated with me. He was from a similar neighborhood, grew up the same way, he'd been in the army for a while. And I was like, cool. And then when we had the appointment, it wasn't that guy, that was all good. I was happy to just, hear him out and see what he had, but it wasn't, I don't know. Yeah, we didn't get great vibes. I was rooting for him if it was but Tanya, she was off it straight away, and I should have stuck to my guts on that one as well. Because that they claimed to all be a veteran company, but the guy who gave us the appointment didn't even say what he did in the army. He just brushed over it. And I was
avoided the topic because the knowledge probably wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was saying this to you before, just because you're an ex-serving member, that's not just a free pass to, I've already...
Don't automatically pass the dickhead test.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean you've got your good bloke card. So, we had that initial appointment, but we still pursued, we kept going. There was subsequent appointments after that.
Yeah. Obviously, you didn't proceed with the purchase, and you've moved across with us and gone down. But what was the where did the moment come where you said, "No, this isn't right for us"?
Yeah, so there was like a couple of appointments, and they were like, it was so you were building with them. It's a full land and build package through them, which I was like, oh, okay, at least, and then they talked about all the benefits of depreciating asset and all blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was happy to just keep hearing it out until we actually got given a price and where it was going to be and all that. And I was like, because I might learn something out of this.
Yeah.
So I think it was another 2 appointments, or I can't even remember. Yeah, 2 or 3 appointments. And we finally got to a point they were like, all right, we will release like where the property is at the next appointment. From there, you will have 24 hours to lock in a deal.
Yeah, right.
And even prior to that, I think it was between the second and third appointment, because Tanya, because she didn't like the guy, so she was like right into him, grilling him with questions and stuff like this, even asking him about his own portfolio just to see if she could call him out. But like, anyway, she was off him, and then he called me between one of the appointments, like, but when we were due to get another one, and he's like, oh, hey, mate, just wanted to see what's going on because Tanya just seems like she's a bit of an obstructionist. Like, so essentially like saying that my wife's a pain in the ass, which I know she can be, but, that's why I love her.
But it's my wife. Yeah, I'm allowed to say that. You're not.
You can't really say that. And, so I didn't tell Tanya that until like months later when we opted to not do it. But then we had the next appointment because I still didn't know where the property was. I was like, so I might learn something good here. Yeah. And then, they're like, oh, you got 24 hours. And we're just like, no, thanks. Like, and then, they were like, oh, is there anything we can do? Like, they tried, it was just really forceful, high pressure sales tactics. And I was not a fan. Like, So I was happy to hear him out, and I'm pretty easygoing, but that was not for us.
Okay, cool.
And it's just like we wanted this experience to be somewhat enjoyable too, right? And if like they're making it like not the case, that's not ideal.
You got to learn along the way. That's half the challenge, I guess, is to make sure you're learning as well as executing. So you've walked away, and how did we come in contact again? Like, I think there was someone at your unit.
Yeah, one of my guys at work, he recommended you, and his brother had also gone through your service as well. Yeah, and he's like, Kane's really good. Kane and Nadia, they're bit of a powerhouse. Like, I'll give you the details and go from there. Yeah. And then reached out to you, and we had our first free appointment. And with
the powerhouse, Rob's words, not mine.
Not scripted, swear.
Cool. So, and then for the boys, if they're listening, Jimmy, Tim, Parfa, great lads, and thanks for the introduction to Rob. So we've sat down and done the first appointment. Obviously, you and Tanya was together with myself. And how was that experience?
Well, it was good. Well, I guess the main thing is you got the Tanya tick of approval, right? So, but it was good. And like, because you were patient and answered all the questions that Tanya had, because Tanya works in finance, so her brain is money and finance. Like, that's what she does.
So she's certainly not a novice or blasé about the topic or anything.
Yeah. As when she was trying to ask questions with old mate before, he was a bit like getting frustrated that she was asking these sort of questions where she's doing her learning. So and she was good. I was already happy because I'd been recommended by 2 people who'd gone through you. I was like, this is a sure thing. Like,
cool. So we've gone through that appointment, which is essentially just our initial discovery appointment where we get to interview each other and make sure it's a right fit in both directions as well.
Yeah.
And then there's no commitment or conversation about proceeding at that point. We ended the call and jumped off, and obviously you and Tanya went and had your offline discussion, which most families should before making big decisions and stuff. And at whatever point we've come back and we've ended up proceeding.
Yep.
And then obviously from there we've, onboarded as a client just through an admin process, I guess. And then gone into, I guess, the initial strategy, which I guess the first thing was the debt side of things. So obviously part of a strategy when purchasing a first property or multiple properties. If you've already got 2 or 3, you got to strategize about what are we trying to achieve with the next purchase, what's the current portfolio, if any, going to achieve. But there's also the debt, like you can't buy another property if you can't get a loan. So we introduced you to a broker we use and know. How was that? Just talk us through the broker side of things and in getting ready for the pre-approval.
Yeah, honestly, they were great. Mel was super onto it, and she was like similar to you guys because we like busy lives and trying to get trying to get both of us to an appointment at the same time is quite hard. So Mel was meeting us after hours and very accommodating. Even like gave her mobile number to us, and Tanya was messaging her, and she was always like quickly responding and getting back to us, which was great. And then Tanya, because Tanya had a corporate trust because of how she used to contract out to one of her previous employers. And then, she talked about the option of going through using that.
As in purchasing in another entity.
Yeah.
Probably not the episode to discuss the pros and cons on that. I think we've put a few episodes out or some content, and if anyone's interested in that, happy to reach out and have that discussion. And I believe Tanya and Mel are kind of city friends now.
Yeah, because Mel works like pretty much in the same city as Tanya, so she's always running into her. So it's just sort of funny. Yeah,
cool. So we've gone through, and Mel's provided some numbers and feedback on borrowing capacity, purchase prices, and stuff. Anything more on the debt sort of side to add there?
Yeah, no, not really.
Cool.
Yeah, we sort of just like crunched numbers to see what was going to work for us without going too crazy, like, sacrificing too much quality of life.
But there was alignment with like every conversation that we had up until this point, and then obviously we're not a brokerage anymore or anything. Like we don't do home loans. We have to hand over to, and again, like Mel is not the only broker we work with. We know people at NAB that are very experienced in the DOAS loan, so we try and match people to the right cultural fit and also outcome fit that they're chasing. And then we've got those numbers, but there was alignment with our business and the brokerage.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. And then we've set up another discussion from there, and that's where we've just talked about the purchase journey from there. Like you've onboarded your debt strategies, right? Just talk us through sort of how you felt with the next steps and the next appointment we had.
Yeah. So that was, it was like I was pretty keen to just dive in, and Tanya wanted to sort of, analyze everything in depth, which is like all good. But it wasn't far off, and we sort of started just like you explained us how your model works. So we had an idea of how it's not just like plucking properties from thin air to then, present you with. But got explained all that, and then the due diligence checks as well, what was covered in that. And then, we essentially just started, like, you guys just started sending properties. Once we were like, we're good to go, like, we've got approval for finance, you started sending properties. And we were lucky enough that it was actually the first property you sent was the one we ended up buying.
Yeah. I'm just going to pause there on that point. I'm going to jump back a minute and call something out, which is rare. But I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, and not always, but a rule of thumb, engineers are quite painful to deal with as a client. I'm just going to put it as a stereotype in that. Yeah. And normally they're the one that says, but why? But they're very rarely just that jump in and let's go, which you're saying. So it's just clicked that I've actually got a client that's like amazing and easy to deal with, and having it, because normally it's the engineer that's
been a pain,
asking me 400 questions about one thing. So
well, most of the engineers at work are pretty much the same. Like rarely are they a bit more of a cowboy.
And because we're data driven as well, and we share, like you would have seen some of the data that we look at. They're like, but why is that good, or but why does that impact this? And so it's. But just reflecting, Oh, very good. That's one for the engineers.
Yeah.
All right. So we've presented presented the first one, which is probably rare. I wouldn't say it's definitely happens and that, but it's for everything to line up, like statistically it is low. I think because if a client says, if we show them 10 properties over the span of however many weeks, because we're generally picking, hotter markets. They don't sit on the market for long. Yeah. Days of market's obviously a metric that we look at, and we speed of sale is a indicator of demand. So if we present something and a client says no, for example, we don't expect it to be there a week or two later.
Yeah.
So of properties that we present to a client, they say yes to 10 because we cap ourselves off at a certain price point. We want to buy, at or under fair market value. We don't we're only successful on 2 or 3 of the 10 that they say yes to.
Yeah.
So to say yes to the first and actually secure it, it's probably a lower percentage of overall client experience, which is, it's just statistics, I guess, of how they work out.
Yeah.
And then from there you said yes, we've gone and secured it.
Yeah.
And that. Just talk us through that, I guess, that purchasing process and journey.
Yeah. So once because there was actually a couple years, I think you sent maybe 3 in one stack, but the first one just resonated with us. So it was both in terms of the square meters, the look of it, just we could probably see ourselves living in it, which is why it sort of ticked a few boxes with us. And then, once we...
See, red flags are going off in my head there.
Yeah, I know, that's not...
You're not allowed to like them.
Yeah.
You don't buy them to like.
Yeah, I know, but I saw it as a good business investment. I could see, I'm this would be a good family rental. But so once we did that, we had a bit of a hiccup with the finance, but that was only because of the time of year. It was coming to the end of the year. Mel was actually good because I can't remember who we initially had it with. I think it was NAB, and then we had to go with another bank. But then last minute, we were able to go back to NAB. At the beginning of the new year.
And to give context behind that, when we look at a mortgage broker, might have 40 or 50 banks on their panel, but some of them, for service allowance, for example, some would take 100% of that as income to service a loan.
Yeah.
Others might take 80, some would take 50. So as you thin down based on the bank's policy, you might only be choosing between a handful. And once you're purchasing in another entity, that alone would probably halve the pack, if not more, of banks that are open to purchasing in different entities. And then once you go through all your policy niches and that, you can really narrow from 40 down to 5, for example, quite quick and easy.
Yeah.
And then once, what Rob's touching on is the time of year. If we purchase a property, say the 10th or 14th of December, you might have that 2-week finance period and building and pest where you do all your conditional inspections and stuff. But you can't settle on the 30th of December or the 1st of January, because most banks, solicitors and everyone that's required to participate in the settlement of the property or on Christmas leave and stuff.
Yeah.
So, a lot of law firms will completely shut down. Banks will have skeleton staff. So it just makes it that awkward time where you might be purchasing in December, but you're pushing settlements out till mid-late January and stuff. So there's, I guess, a bit of admin over there, but no real showstoppers.
Yeah. But so presented with the property, started going through, got the agent does the video walkthrough, which is super handy, especially because we've seen that going through the second time, which I'm sure getting the second property, a lot of the stuff on realestate.com is dressed up with AI nowadays. So the video that the agent takes is super critical and determinant. It's similar to what's posted online. And then, got building and pest done. That came back pretty much no dramas or just minor stuff. And then, you guys put us in contact with solicitors that we needed. I mean, even with that, we had to change solicitors last minute because one got crook and fell off fell out of the equation. But once again, we got in contact with the people pretty short notice and got it all sorted on in time, which is good.
And that would have settled. When did that settle? February? Yeah. How's it been sort of managing?
So far so good. A couple of little minor maintenance things, but nothing's been good. We, the real estate manager that we got, they got tenants in very quickly. We put it out to market, and then within a week we had tenants.
Yep.
So that was good, and then before you know it, money was coming in the bank.
I think that's one thing that so many people not just our clients or anything, just real estate in general, buying investment, people worry about is, what if it's vacant for, 2 months, 3 months and stuff, and they stress about, obviously if there's a repayment there without rent, that's something that people would naturally worry about. But, you know, when you look at vacancy rates in Australia, I would say 2 to 4% is a balanced market. 4% over 4% is quite a oversupply of rentals, and, you know, you are probably going to be exposed to a longer vacancy period there. 2 to 4 is like you'll get someone reasonably quick, and under 2 is deemed a critical shortage. And 1% and under, you know, you would expect someone in the first week. If it's at 0.5, there's extreme rental pressure in that LGA or that local government area. Where at 0.5 or below, you know, they're fighting to get a property in that suburb. I'm not sure what yours was at the time of purchase, but I imagine it would have been around that 1% mark. You know, which is anything under 2 is where you're buying. You know, 2% and under is perfect, and that's ideal. And that's good. So someone's moved in fairly quick for you.
One thing I wanted to backtrack a little bit. One thing I wanted to mention throughout the whole process, which was super handy for us and probably going to be relevant to a lot of people, not just in defence who are busy, but didn't really need to do any face-to-face appointments with anyone. Like we had a face-to-face with Mel, and we had a face-to-face with the solicitor when we were doing the contract with NAB, and that's only because we went through a trust. Otherwise, everything was like DocuSign, digital. So like we're able to, and with the WhatsApp chat, like, because, you know, there's like a million emails going back and forth. You guys are like, put in the WhatsApp, hey guys, you need to sort this out, and we would just quickly get on, get it done, and that way the momentum kept going instead of like stop start. I mean, it might have felt stop start for you guys waiting for us to action something, but for us, it was just like it just kept flowing.
So what Rob's referencing there is just a focal point that we have is a WhatsApp chat with every client and stuff, and we essentially become, I guess, the project manager, where we're like, we really need you to action the rental agreement in your inbox, because until you and Tanya have both signed that, we can't get the property online on realestate.com advertising for a tenant. So every day that you delay this or a week that you delay is a week of rent you've potentially lost. So we monitor all those key dates, same as building and pest and finance, to just make sure that the project or the purchase is hitting all its milestones accordingly. Cool. So we've gone through, settled, no real issues on settlement, was there? It was pretty smooth from that point. Tenants moved in, and sort of it's on the balance sheet now, ticking away in the background. Cool. And then, you know, so a few months passed, and we're halfway through. I believe today is actually unconditional.
Correct.
So probably not the day that you're listening to this, but the day of recording, and we'll go through the purchase in detail. But today's unconditional of purchase number 2 for Rob and Tanya. Back chat. How do we all kick off on purchase number 2?
Well, I mean, I, being the shoot from the hip guy, I wanted to get 2 straight off the bat because we did have enough for deposit for that. But Tanya was a bit hesitant, which is, I'm glad we did. It was good just to get like 1 rep in before we sort of progress to the next one. And then, so it was sort of just like, because we were sitting on our deposit, we hadn't done anything with it. So it was just money sitting in the bank, which I wasn't really happy with. Neither was Tanya. She knows that that's not a good use of the money or a good investment. And then I was like, I did the numbers because cash flow might not look favorable between now and the end of the year, but once I get the promotion, cash flow will be good again. But we were willing to take the hit if needed between now and the end of the year, just so we can get the next one. And like, see, you've talked about this some other episodes. Like, people always got an excuse. Oh, there's always something on, promotion courses, push, all that stuff, time away. And I was like, at the beginning of next year, I'm starting a new job, and
I'll be busier
potentially busier. I'm like, let's get it now when my schedule's a bit more predictable. Like, I've probably got a bit more flexibility at work
and comfort. Like, you know what you're doing, right? Like,
exactly.
In your 3rd year in a posting versus your 1st year, is always very different. Like, you know who's who in the zoo, really.
Exactly. And not learning all those new relationships and nuances of a new unit and system. We finally came to agreement. It's like, let's do it. Because Tanya, being that she did a lot more of the in-depth analysis and probably stressed out a lot more about it than I did.
And the admin burden.
Yeah, pretty much. So she was like, you need to be more into it this second one, which I feel like this second rep, I am probably a bit more into it. And I've also learned a lot more since the first one. Started looking, and the search on this one took a little bit longer than the first one. I think we maybe looked at maybe 5 or 6 properties that you
There was a
sent
few
us.
offers on those 5 or 6 as well, wasn't there? That we
Yeah.
just missed out.
Yeah.
I think a couple had other offers higher and stuff.
Yeah, and we did go through we put an offer on one initially and then got the building and pest done, and it didn't look, it just didn't sit with us.
Let
well,
it go to the keeper.
pretty much, which was fine, and then we're happy to keep looking. And then we were, with everything going on with the budget, we did just have it momentarily. We momentarily paused it, just to see what was going on with the dust settle. But then we big pictured it like, yes, the budget's changed and we won't get the tax benefit come tax time. But like I was saying before, that's not where we're building the wealth anyway. It's just a nice benefit of having your investment properties.
The purpose to investing in whatever asset class is to turn $1 into 2, right? You know, that's the concept of why you invest.
Yeah.
Everyone's got the different motives of why they do that. But the motive to invest isn't to turn $1 to save 30 cents in tax or anything, you know.
Exactly.
The 30 cents in tax that you get or don't get is just an auxiliary benefit.
Yeah.
You know, and you haven't actually lost anything. I know this, we've done an episode about the budget the other week, but you haven't lost anything. It's just deferred benefit, not immediate benefit.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that. And property investing in my eye is always about delayed gratification.
Yeah.
You know, like if it was easy, everyone would do it, you know, and if you didn't need any knowledge, everyone would have 2 or 3 properties. But it's the fortitude to have that sort of foresight to say, I'm going to do this. And it's the same as getting fit, right? Putting the burger down, picking up the salad. Like no one really likes salad, you know? Like, but you got to do it and put in the reps and put in the effort, go to the gym, hustle. When you don't feel like it, you feel tired, fatigued.
Exactly.
You still have to go and get your reps and get your sessions done to get the outcome. And investing is no different. It's not comfortable, but nothing great happens in your comfort zone, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that. So, yes, we've made the second purchase. We've strategically picked a different state and a different region.
Yep.
And how's it been so far?
Yeah, so far so good. And it's like, I mean, the yield is looking better than the first property, which is a nice little added bonus.
Yep.
And this one's already got tenants in it, another added bonus.
Yep.
So yeah, it's looking pretty good. And yeah, once again, even though it might be a red flag for you, I was like, this looks like this is a nice looking family rental place. Like, it was good.
Which is what we're aiming for, right? In a perfect world, there's always that horses for courses approach where, you know, the single soldier sailor airman that's on a tight budget, you know, they might not be able to have the negative cash flow of a house in a fully built out area where the yield's not that strong. So they may target like a unit. As long as we're buying a unit in the right market at the right time, we can still expect growth, but they might have a much higher gross yield, so the holding costs, you know. So there's no perfect investment. Yeah. You know, there's always a trade-off somewhere, I feel, in your strategy. But, you know, if you've got the cash flow to carry that little bit of negative equity, we want to be targeting that established house, fully built out area, higher percentage of own occupiers, which is what you're sort of referencing. Like, you like it because you've got kids and you could see yourself living in that suburban area. And that's because, you know, the own occupier percentage was probably 70% or greater, where people are committing to a long-term mortgage to live there. You know, so I guess you're allowed to say it, but you just, you know, you're not allowed to love it.
Yeah. Not love it for us, but can see, just like visualize, you know, this is something that if we're in a similar scenario, we would rent it.
Yeah.
So like,
100%.
It's very rentable investment. People come through.
And just to segue back to something Rob mentioned about buying this second one, like he obviously said, like, due for promotion at the end of the year from lieutenant to captain, so he's expecting the pay rise there, and obviously it would be ideal to wait for that pay rise to come through, so it helps with the household budget and whatnot. But by buying the investment first, it kind of auto blocks lifestyle creep. Yeah. And lifestyle creep is one thing that I'm sure as 18 years in the defence, climbing the ranks, you've seen with probably yourself even, but, you know, other soldiers that you've been in command of, like, where you get digger to lance corporal to corporal to sergeant, and as we get those increases, we automatically adjust our spending behaviours and habits. Yeah. Whereas, you know, it's okay to have a little bit, like you earn more, you work, you've got more responsibility, more income. Yes, treat yourself somewhere. Yeah. But proportion it out, like proportion of the new, X dollars per fortnight. I'm going to receive portion half of it off into investments and debt reduction and the smarter choices, and half of it can go to lifestyle.
Yeah.
Don't automatically start spending, and if you're in a position to do so, like buying or investing before it comes in, and you can line your timelines up. Like you might choose to purchase August, September, settle October, November, and then the pay rise comes through November, December, whenever your promotion occurs.
Yeah.
And there was something else.
But yeah, I mean, buying this, that's how I operate for sure. Like, and that's why I wanted to get the second one, because like we're just having this money for a deposit in the bank, like, and not really doing anything with it. And like you naturally catch yourself like buying shit that you don't really need because you're just like, the money's there. And I like having that pressure applied, just the right amount. And I think this is going to get us back on track to then. So next year, depending on what cash flow is looking like, when I actually can calculate what the new salary is, this is where the engineering brain will come into. I like the budget part of that, like crunching the numbers and finding where I can sort of reallocate funds. So yeah, doing that to then look for the third property, which I'm sure Tanya's already tracking.
Yeah, nice. So
yeah,
cool. So we're probably settling. Don't have the dates in front of me or whatnot, but I'd say 2 to 4 weeks from now.
Yeah.
On the second one, and then so that's going to take us to mid-August for settlement for number 2.
Yeah.
What's the combined value of the two purchases?
1.5.
1.5. Cool.
Yeah.
So roughly $750 on each or thereabouts.
Yep.
And if we were to work out, long-term zoom out on property, in Australia over 30, 40 years, we're probably averaging like 6.8% or thereabouts. What's that? So 68 and 34's 90, 100, about 102 long-term average. We'd expect around 100K of capital growth across those two. And obviously that's going to compound as well.
Yeah.
And then, immediate plans in the next year or two to add a third. Yep. So I guess how would just describe to anyone that's listening to sitting on the fence about pulling the trigger, not only with myself and Discover, but just generally pondering.
Yeah.
Because I find at the moment we're in a very interesting time. The new budget's been released. There's a lot of noise around it.
Yeah.
And not always the most accurate noise or helpful. There's a lot more, I guess, info in the weeds rather than in the headline.
Yeah.
And a general default is to do nothing as a safety mechanism. Like, what sort of advice, I guess, could you give to anyone listening that's pondering the decision and not sure on if they're ready or not?
Yeah, well, we have already spoken a fair bit about this, and I've noticed, especially, so I did my logistics officer course at the start of the year, so surrounded by a bunch of, young lieutenants, new to Army, and a lot of them that they're highly motivated young people and they're keen to like buy property and stuff like that. And a lot of them get the idea in their head that DOHAS is the be all end all, and DOHAS is a great subsidy we have available to us, but a lot of them seem to just be chasing that lump sum rather than looking at like, how am I going to build long-term wealth?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're buying a property, that's still going to be good regardless of what strategy you're doing. But I think for those, like, especially the ones like some of them are like, living on base, or they were just in a DHA place already. Like, you already got that. That's such a good subsidy we have. And I think trying to get people to understand, like they see it as like, oh, I only pay, $200 a week rent or $250, $300, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Think of it the other way. It's like, if I was paying for an equivalent, if I wasn't in the Army, like us, for example, we're living in a DHA place. It's like $300, I think, a week rent. If we were paying out of our own pocket for that, that would be like $800 to $900 a week rent.
So $500 difference.
Yeah.
25 grand a year.
Yeah.
I think, don't quote me, go on the DOAS website to get the exact figure, but tier 1 DOAS is probably $1,100 a month.
Yeah.
Versus,
and that's the number I was roughly working off. And then if you're like, so even if you got to buy an investment and rent it out and say the yield's not great, you're looking at like $550 a week rent or thereabouts, that's still going to be more than DOHAS. And then you can still keep living in wherever your setup is, especially for like, if you're, especially new to defense and you might just have a partner and that's it, you've got some pretty Gucci spots you can go live in with DHA, like just with rent allowance, and then so you could be living in a really nice apartment somewhere or a nice small townhouse that's fit for your need, and then buy an investment and then have people paying your mortgage. To me, it was a no-brainer, but everyone's at different strategies or, different parts of their life and different goals and stuff like that. But, everyone seems to, we talked about this too, everyone's always like waiting for the suitable time and busy with this, busy with that. And like
always a promotion course, a field exercise. There's always a reason not to do it.
Yeah. And we're busy too. Tanya and I have both full-time jobs, like two, 19-year-old son and 15-year-old daughter, two dogs. And I like to do a bunch of stuff on the weekends, so does Tanya, but we just had to make the time. And it is good with you guys because you do factor around people's schedules, which is quite handy. Because if we were going through buyer's agents where it was only just a 9 to 5 setup, it would have been we would have made it happen, but it would have been
a lot more burden.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And just going back to Rob's first point there, no one's sitting here advocating that you don't use DOAS. It's just about the timing of when you make the decision to use it versus not to use it. And especially if you start using it on a lower tier, you can save your entitlement to use it later when you're on a higher tier. But you want to create an environment out of your career where you've essentially got both and double dipped. So, there might be a short period where you can't get both. Like, you post to a region with a lower median price, you're a single soldier salary airman, you would use it in that instance. But you want to get posted away from there as soon as you've purchased and used it and met your 12-month commitment, so you can go to a new region, have your rent assistance and that new posting, but then you've got DOAS on your investment. If you're on like that single income, it might make sense in that.
Yeah.
Or it might just make sense to delay using your DOAS until you discharge and separate.
Yeah.
You know where your forever home and location is.
Yeah.
Then use the DOAS on the one where you want to reduce the debt. And you've got rent assistance every single year out of your career.
Yeah, because that's probably more the scheme I'm leaning towards. But once again, not for everyone. But I think it's just maybe recognizing which sort of path you're probably sitting on, and don't be selecting that one path because you're just chasing that lump sum. That lump sum's great, but that's if you're planning long-term in defense anyway, that's going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Just think about how you can build long-term.
And that lump sum was also not available till after settlement.
Yeah.
So you're generally not going to be able to use it for your funding position or your purchasing costs, like your deposit or stamp duty and stuff. So, most commonly it's probably going to be sent on just going in the offset account against the new mortgage or furniture and stuff. But the lump sum doesn't necessarily help you get the property faster.
Yeah.
Same as HPAS.
Yeah.
HPAS comes in after settlement and purchase, not to help you actually make the purchase.
Yeah.
But for anyone that is saying, well, what path is right for me? Like things that you want to be considering is probably your years of service so far, like what level of DOAS you're on, your deposit size, and then referencing your deposit size versus the median household price for your locality. That because obviously you're going to be purchasing if it's the owner occupier path to live in the property. So you got to say, well, is my deposit relative to the median price in that area, and can I afford that?
Yeah.
But another big one that's really important that I ask everyone is, what's your tenure left? Which is a loaded question in defense.
Varies day to day.
Varies day, which is probably the most common, unless someone's probably, I find, like yourself, like when they get to that, whether it's, I feel the 12 to 20 era, where if you're sitting in there, you're generally, the thought process is coming into, I'm going to see this through, to, 30, 35, 40, whatever, or, as a full career. Anyone that's sub 6 years is more Rozzo, and then I'll reevaluate, and generally the retention bonus, if it's applicable, comes into that.
Yeah.
And then the definitely the year by years are, that 8 to 15 or whenever they make that decision to either get out or commit long term.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably looking at it more at a rank by rank now.
Yeah.
Unless a really good opportunity comes up, potentially in the engineering space or you never know. I'm I'm keeping an open mind, but yeah, like I said at the start, we started chatting. For the first time in my career, I'm finally looking at it as a long-term career.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking at that sort of 55, 60 potentially.
Yeah.
Because at least, like whilst I'm still enjoying it and I can forecast out, like, I sort of know this is how much I get paid each year. Like if I'm going up at the expected career progression timeline, I know how much I'm getting paid at exactly what year, and that's pretty good to forecast out. You don't really get that benefit from many jobs unless you're staying
You
in the
have a
same.
very clear and defined career path, which is also a projectable income path.
Exactly. Unless you're in a job where you're not really, you've maxed out, you're not going any further and you're just going off inflation pay rises. So that's, for the first time in my career, I am looking that long term. As long as I continue enjoying it, it's a sliding scale. Sometimes that's part of the army. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's not. As long as the average across the year is somewhat, in the middle on the positive side, I'm pretty good.
And I think you've done the hardest part now. Like you've made the first 2 purchases. Obviously, the first purchase for anyone's generally the hardest.
Yeah.
But then as we start building, like when you've got 2 and then you get a third, you got 3 that are doing the heavy lifting in the portfolio. I guess they progressively, I wouldn't say become easier, but you just get more options, I guess. And and then you can really compound it, I guess. Well, the 2 times where I find that people can go the hardest in building is obviously the dinks, double income, no kids.
Yeah.
Like kids are very expensive and they'll just purely, even if you live frugally, they'll restrict your borrowing capacity very significantly. It's also quite hard when you're single. So, I'm not saying go hook up with the chick from last weekend, you know, or vice versa. But yeah, dinks is one, and then empty nesters is the other.
Yeah.
The downside to waiting to empty nesting, obviously the kids have moved out, and you're essentially back to a dinks. In situation. You don't have as much time, and time does all the heavy lifting.
Yes.
So if you can get in that when you're young and single, and at least get your first and maybe second. Or when you are, de facto new relationship, but you're pretty solid and this is the one. That's potentially the other time to go hard to at least get started. But so where to from here?
So I'll finish up the year 20 reg and then going into an engineering job at brigade headquarters. And then so that's a 2-year posting. Actually, officers 2-year postings, and then after that, I'll request one more. So my daughter will be starting year 12 at that stage. So I'll hopefully ask for just one more in location. And then, where Tanya and I are pretty keen to sort of post around and see where we end up at.
Check the place out.
Yeah, keen to try and get a gig down at Melbourne, posting-wise.
Quite a few engineer roles there.
CASG sort of headquarters, I guess, down there. So, keen to potentially get a position down there. And then just, see, I've open mind, really. I'm not too fussed what jobs. I've got a couple of key jobs I'm looking at in the future. A subunit command's probably one on my radar that I'd like to tick off. I don't know where that'll be, but that's something that I've got in the back of my mind for goal-wise for Army. And then, we'll see what happens. Because when I go down to CASG, that could open up some more opportunities in the engineering space. Maybe that might be where the transition happens. Potentially, at least building the network to then, in the future, look at another position. But that's at least the Army point. And then, the investment part, because we're still learning on this journey too, right? So, and this is the part I probably wanted to touch on it before we talking about main takeaways, and I'm sure the wife will laugh at this, but if you go into all this journey with the goal of learning and then you'll make your decisions out of that, that's where you'll really be doing well long term. We've learned about, buying the properties and how that all works and getting them and building a portfolio. And then the next part for me would be learning what the next 10 to 20, even 30 years looks like with the portfolio and what we do with it as we continue to build it. So,
and some final tips or words of wisdom, top 1, 2, 3, 5, what are for the defence member, veteran or current serving? Any final words?
Without plugging your business, it has been really great. And having that, for me personally, that word of mouth referral like speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like definitely a main point I have for everyone listening. Like if they are unsure about how to approach this, like they will be in good hands with yourself and Nadia. And like, yeah, it's just, I had a lot of trust in you guys and it's worked out really well. So, so that, and then also just like not, like we already talked about it, not waiting for the convenient times.
Yeah.
That convenient times is never going to happen, especially the longer you stay in defense, the busier you're going to be.
Yeah.
Especially as you progress through the ranks and stuff like that. So you really just need to like get your foot in the door and start.
And that's opportunity cost. Like the time that you spend on the sideline is generally costing you money because you're not exposed to that growth asset.
Yeah.
You know? And without doing a shameless self-plug, I think I had an inquiry through Google, which is kind of rare for us. Like most people know we're a defense sort of business and come to us through that channel. They found us on Google and they were actually in defense though, and they were relocating from another locality to Conunga.
Yeah.
So they'd gone on Google and found a couple of buyer's agents,
Right.
and she spoke to two first and then booked in and had a initial chat with us. And I started talking to her about her defence career and told her a bit about mine. And then we started talking about the HPAS, the DOAS, and working that into the equation. And she just said to me, "Oh, the other two buyers agents I spoke to didn't mention anything about that." I'm like,
Yeah.
To be fair to them, they're not defence and they wouldn't have a clue what it is.
Exactly.
And it wasn't even considered when she spoke to them, whereas I sort of gave a lot more relevant and structured advice around that. So, and like you mentioned earlier, just because someone's portraying themselves to be defence, don't be afraid to ask questions about someone's career and background, and
Definitely, yeah.
and get to know them from like you want to be building a long-term relationship with the business and the person that's representing you. So
Yeah.
make sure it's the right personal and cultural fit as well as they've walked that path of where you want to go.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess the other last point I had is like everyone getting hyper-focused on the budget and what that means to them. But like in a couple of years' time, you never know what changes are going to happen. And that's really outside your control. So if your goal is for building wealth through investment properties, like concentrate on that.
Yeah. On that budget, the final thing that I'd say about it is coming back to the real fundamentals of real estate in Australia, there's an ever-increasing population growth through migration and internal growth. And there's a very restrictive development process of new supply in Australia where we're just not building enough new dwellings, which is supply increasing demand. Until those two, there's a significant change, and I don't know what it could be to solve that. Budgets and negative gearing and capital gains and first-home guarantee schemes, they're all just fiscal tweaks to policy that generally do end up in stimulus in the market. But focus on the ultimate supply and demand of real estate in Australia.
Yeah.
And until that's resolved, and there's a big gap.
Yeah.
It's compounding. So don't get too hyper-focused on those small fiscal tweaks to different policies, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for coming on the episode on the podcast, Rob. It's been great. I'd love to do this again in maybe, 12, 18, 24 months and do a bit of a look back on see how we're sitting and where we're at. Really thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great. I've actually quite enjoyed it. Yeah.
Sweet. We're keep an eye out for a future podcaster in the making. Awesome. Thanks for listening. Until next week. Cheers.